Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Bhumivarta Technology YouTube channel. My name is Sarah Wayne, and we'd like to welcome you to the Real Investment Talk Show, where we'll be talking about so many things regarding the investment climate in Indonesia and also the business doing here in Indonesia. And right now, I am not alone because I have here with me Martin Terpilowski. Hello, Martin. How are you? And Jessica Sukharsa. Okay, so probably one of you can start by holding the mic. And okay, Martin first. So right here and this afternoon, we'd like to ask you and also invite you to join us in our conversation by typing in your questions. Anything, can they ask anything and everything?
Yeah.
Feel free to do so if you'd like to ask about the investment climate or how, if they would like to invest, if you're still new or you're probably starting out on investing, you can ask Martin and Jessica anything. Just post your questions on the comment box, and Martin and Jessica will be more than happy to answer you. But before we move on and also continue our discussion this afternoon, probably we'd like to get to know more about Martin, also Jessica. Probably we can start from Martin first. Martin, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself, about your business, and probably your start here in Indonesia as well?
Right, my name is Martin. I'm from the UK, but I've lived in Asia for 23 years nearly. The vast majority working in finance, all kinds of different financial businesses in Tokyo and Hong Kong. Work for family offices, private banks in the hedge fund space. 12 years in Tokyo, 4 years in Hong Kong. Around 6-7 years ago, I gave up that business, kind of semi-retired. Got a bit bored and then came back and started this business a few years ago. So originally I became an investor in a few companies in Indonesia, and then I decided to focus on this business. So in October 2018, we started Bhumivarta Technology. And yeah, we've grown now to 160 people. We have significant clients. We're trying to grow a proper business here, so obviously we want to grow very, very fast, but it's always been about making money and sustainability, because that's the background I'm from. When I used to do my old job, if I'm not making money, I don't have a job. So again, I'm just trying to go back to the fundamentals in what we're doing. And hopefully Bhumivarta is going to become one of the biggest deep tech companies in Indonesia and Southeast Asia.
All right. Before we ask your expertise, which is making money and sustainability and helping the others make money as well, Martin, can you please tell us, probably the viewers who are not yet aware of Bhumivarta Technology, of what it is and what does it do?
Right.
Exactly?
So Bhumivarta Technology is a deep tech company doing location intelligence software. So we are the biggest in Indonesia, where we basically help companies make better data-driven decisions based on the geographical position. So if a company wants to expand their business, whether it's a coffee shop, a restaurant, or a big company like IKEA or a mall owner, we can actually help them do that by using the data. So by using data-driven decisions, you can drive your revenue much higher, and you can pretty much ensure success in the business. So we combine data like telco data, demographic data from Duck Chapel, from BPS, all these different areas. We put it all together in one platform to allow any kind of company to make better decisions. So some of our clients already include some of the biggest companies in Indonesia. So Janji Jiwa, XXI Cinema, and those guys are brilliant. We dealt with them since day one. And we dealt directly with Billy, and the owner of Janji Jiwa, and also with Arif from XXI. So we've really got like a help from early stage with these guys who've trusted our product. And now we're dealing with other companies, Bukalapak, which has been a great customer of ours, BAT, a wide variety of different kind of clients, FIF, Astra Group. So basically what we're doing is trying to make our software the norm in Indonesia. Okay. So any company who wants to grow their business, but also monitor their business so they know how things are working, where the money's being spent. The idea of our business is to drive the profitability of your business.
All right, so there you go. You can ask Martin any questions regarding the business that he is doing right now, which is Bhumivarta Technology, which is a data-driven business. But also, as you mentioned before, you have quite an experience in investments and also, the money market. So therefore, you can ask anything. And now we'd like to move on to Jessica to get to know a little more of Jessica, probably because she went viral a few while back. Can you please tell us, Jessica, about your position here in Bhumivarta and what are your interests and what drove you into the financial market?
Hi everyone. For those who don't know me, my name is Jessica Sukharsa. I work as an investor relation in Bhumivarta Technology. I just joined like 2 months ago, so I'm still new. But previous probation, I'm still on probation. But previously, I work as an investor relation in several companies, like private company, public company, and as an investor relation, basically, my job desk is I'm the bridge between the company and the investors. So I maintain and building the communication, connections within the company and the existing investors, potential investors, like that. It sounds easy, but actually there are a lot of details that needs to be done to be in investor relations, such as like I have to analyze our competitors, I have to know well about our business, what's our strategy, what's our financial projections, and what's our valuations, and how's the macroeconomic here, what will impact our company, something like that. And I've been studying, working in finance for like 7-8 years. So yeah, I've always interested something about finance, profits, analyzing about financial reports, something like that.
All right. You have always been interested in finance, but generally speaking, can you please probably give us a little bit of detail, or probably in your opinion, from your views, about the condition of the financial market, or probably the climate here in Indonesia?
Here in Indonesia, basically, if you see in these days, like inflation rate and globally, I think, is rising. U.S. just announced last week that their inflation rate is about more than 8%, I think. It's very big. Usually it's only like 2%, 3%, maximum 5%, but last week they just announced it's 8%. I think it's because of the demand and of the supply doesn't match. Because of COVID-19 is already passed, right? Right now we already got into the post-COVID pandemic. So the demand for the products and for the services is quite high, but the supply is not there yet. Yeah. That's why the price is getting higher, and that's why the inflation rate is getting higher, right?
Ukraine also.
Yeah. Ukraine also. And also, because of that, U.S. just announced that the Fed rise their not inflation. They rise their interest rate for about 50 basis points, which is quite high, 0.5%, right? So it is a monetary policy that U.S. made to maintain their inflation rate. Because if they're rising the interest rate, people will not spend their money. They will save their money in bonds or bank deposits, something like that. So the demand will be lower. And that's why the inflation rate will not as high as before. That's what they're trying to do. But there are some impacts towards that. First is exchange rate. There will be many capital inflow to America, to US, because people want to buy their bonds, people want to deposit in their banks, so the US dollar exchange rate will be strengthened, right? And on the other hand, in Indonesia, the exchange rate for Indonesia will be weakened compared to US dollar, because there will be capital outflow from Indonesia, from rupiah to US dollars, right? So that's why our rupiah is weakened compared to US dollars. And for second, in the stock market, I think after the Fed just announced that they rise the interest rate, the US stocks price is dropped, and also the Indonesian stocks is dropped quite significant. And I think it's because of people, the economic is unstable, right? The Fed just announced that they rise the interest rate. So that's why people just move from stocks to bonds or to US deposits. And not to mention that China is still on lockdown. And not to mention that Ukraine and Russia is still on war. So the economic is very unstable. Yeah, perfect storm, right? So that's why people sell their stocks and just move maybe to bonds or to US deposits. And that's why the US stocks and the Indonesian stocks is dropped quite significant. And I think in the future, US still will increase their interest rate in the middle of this year and the end of this year, because of they still want to maintain their very high inflation rate.
and seeing the conditions that is still ongoing right now.
Yeah.
And Martin, from that point of view, do you have anything to add, especially probably compared, because we have seen some very unstable conditions before in the past, but because does this condition differ from what we have experienced?
I mean, what Jessica said, that's true, all the macroeconomic. One of the other major issues we have this time is very similar to 98 and 2008, where we had everybody thinking about free lunches. Yeah. And I think every 10 years we get bitten on the backside, really. So to add to all these other issues, I think it's been pretty clear for us at least 6 months and probably a year that interest rates will be going up. Cyclically, they have to go up anyway. This has been pushed forward by the increase of the inflation brought on by the war and the end of COVID. So, a year ago, people, in my opinion, should have started taking a slightly more sensible approach to business. But it's been the opposite. It's been, let's get as much money into this as quickly as possible, and the problem will go away. So there's been very little macroeconomic research being done in relation to the Indonesian stock market. And obviously, we've had various large IPOs which have struggled. And it's a lot of that's about timing. It's been bad timing, but again, when should have timing been earlier, when there's been 10 years of great opportunity, where the market was strong, where you could have potentially had a better IPO. But if you IPO at a time like this, you're going to have a lot of problems. You've also got a lot of global factors which will affect the market. And Indonesia, as a market which is driven by a lot of VC investment, has got a lot of issues based on, you've got SoftBank coming out with the worst figures ever. SoftBank is whether they're going to be a player anymore going forward in the market. I don't know. Tiger Global, another big player. Are they going to be a main player in the market going forward? The knock-on effect to a market like Indonesia is quite huge, because obviously in the last few years you've had multiple, decacorn and whatever listings, yes. And which obviously those guys will be affected worse than other companies, because the facts of the matter are a lot of companies are going to get hit very badly by the current downturn, but a lot of companies will recover quite quickly. Okay. If you look in the US, for example, Netflix has gone down, of course, because it went up so much last year, yes. And obviously less people are going to be downloading. Makes common sense, right? Same with Amazon. Less people are buying online. However, Amazon have got a huge cloud business. They've got a huge profitable businesses in other sectors. The problem is with a lot of the startup in Asia, Southeast Asia, they don't really have that. So the backup's not there. So you're trying to make a business suddenly profitable in a very different market. It's very hard to turn the ship around. When you're that big, it's hard to turn the ship around.
Is it only hard? Is it impossible in your point of view?
I would say it's hard. People have turned things around before, and with good, effective management, I would never say anything's impossible. And you can't necessarily blame certain people involved, because a lot of the people have been pushed by the investors to grow at all costs. So I know some of these guys, and they're not stupid people, but the reality is they were pushed to keep growing at all costs. Now, that's great, but at some point when the free lunch ends, if you're really exposed to that, there's a problem. And it's no big surprise. Anyone who knows me, has talked to me in the last year, will know that I've been very skeptical of how this can work, because how are you going to turn this around when interest rates go up? It's no shock. People are acting like shocking, but it's not. And the problem was, I think most of the people running the market have never seen. Jessica knows what she's talking about, but a lot of people, maybe they don't want to know. You know what I mean? Because a lot of these people weren't around when Lehman Brothers went bankrupt. Right. So I remember all that very, very well. I was working in Tokyo, and everybody was like, this is brilliant, this. You can make money on this Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and interest rate differential. It's one-way ticket. The minute you start hearing words like this, and, I think it's a huge problem. And I think one of the issues, and I've been clear about this in Indonesia, is there is no one comes out and says, hang on a minute, this is not right. So in my opinion, by having a media that in a lot of ways is controlled by the same people, you never get questions asked. Yeah. So, and I don't think that's good for anybody. I don't think it's good for the VC market. I don't think it's good for the companies. Because if you go into every meeting and you're going to get your back slapped, you're brilliant, no one's ever going to say to you, hang on a minute, mate, that's wrong.
That's a problem.
And that's a problem. And that's a problem. And I don't blame people necessarily. In my opinion, what needs to happen in Indonesia is it needs to be far more open. Because yes, in America, there's a lot of problems with the economy at the moment, but there's also been a lot of people calling this for a long time. Yep. A lot of analysts have been saying, this is going to... Now, as we know, if you're an analyst at a major securities company in Indonesia, you can't necessarily come out and say, this is a problem, right? So that to me is a potential issue that will result in a bigger drop-off in the Indonesian market in the short term.
Yeah.
However, longer term, I believe in this market very well because it's still the biggest market in Southeast Asia. I think it's like what I would call it is house cleaning. This needs sorting out. People need to learn real economics, not stop this. It's a zero-sum game.
Okay.
The reality is, if people are making loads of money, people are losing money. Not everyone can't make money at the same time,
Yes.
like we have been led to believe by people. And the fact is, people don't seem to understand that. And I think what we're going to see now is a change, and I think it's a good change. And I think that the best people will survive and they'll thrive.
Okay. And speaking about people understanding, Jessica has probably, through your video, started to open the eyes of many audiences regarding the truth of a certain condition. And in your opinion, Jessica, why aren't there more people like you? Is it because of the lack of knowledge, or is it probably because they don't have the access to the information? Or what do you think is the main root problem or the cause?
First, lack of knowledge is one thing. I think it's true that many people in Indonesia, especially, they lack of education. They don't know about the economics, or they don't know how to read the financial report. They don't know about stocks, capital markets, something like that. But second, I think in Indonesia, they are afraid to say something publicly because, I think some of institution or people maybe have a big control of the media. So I think yes, lack of knowledge, but second, maybe they are afraid of saying something in public.
It might affect future job or anything, right?
Yeah.
But probably you can help inspire the others who are probably scared right now to actually say the truth.
I think as long as you're not insulting someone and you're not talking about bad assumption, you have to talk based on facts, right? I think it's okay to say publicly as long as you have the fact, as long as you're not
And do your research.
and do your research. Don't just say it in a good way. Don't insult people. I think it's fine.
All right. And then we'd like to also know more besides the macroeconomics, the microeconomics in Indonesia. There's also one thing that many Indonesians are starting or have started to talk about, which is the cryptocurrency. And your opinion, Martin, please do with your glare talking about cryptocurrencies. What do you think is the condition right now and the future? Because
Right, so I won't claim to be a cryptocurrency expert, but again, it comes back to the free lunch. A lot of people have suddenly become experts in something that didn't really exist a few years ago. I get regular people telling me they are a Web3 expert or a NFT expert or all this. And a lot of YouTube channels with 1 million subscribers. And a lot of this to me is very, very dangerous, And there is no such thing as a free lunch. If I really thought that crypto was going to be as easy to make money as possible, why would I do what I'm doing here? You know what I mean? I think people who've made their own money in a sensible way are not necessarily going to get involved in this. But there is a lot of people involved in this who are making money who might not be buying it themselves. Also, what people have got to understand is now, I've got nothing against the richest man in the world at all, but Mr. Musk is manipulating the market here. I mean, it's quite a simple situation. He says something, it goes up. He says something, it goes down. Now, Tesla last year, everyone says it made a profit. It made a profit on Bitcoin trading. So again, that's not related to their business. So again, that to me is the fact that he's allowed to, and he's basically doing YouTube channel at the moment, The Next Pump, marked by Tesla. Now, to me, because there is no regulation in this market, and of course, this guy's a very clever guy. He's put space shuttles in the air. Yeah. Now, no one's saying he's not a clever guy, but the trouble is the normal people on the streets believe a lot what he says. And a lot of people really believe that they're going to get rich quick. And this is the way to get rich. And I don't want to work in an office anymore because this guy on YouTube is a multimillionaire off crypto. Now, a lot of it's absolute nonsense, right? And I just think it's a dangerous game because...
And how can we stop this game? Or probably,
I think the first thing we need is regulation.
How can you regulate something that was made to...
be not regulated?
Yes, exactly.
I don't know. I think there's going to be quite a big crackdown. I think there's been suicides attributed to Luna last week. And again, I absolutely think it's terrible what's happened to those people. The people who are responsible for this are the people who pushed it up. you know, and these people seem to get away with it, right? But it's horrible what's happened. But the fact that people were gambling on something which there was, I spent 16 years in financial markets, and I've read, I could not understand what this is all about. It doesn't make any sense to me. How can this be going on? What does it, all this, it's just so confusing, it's convoluted. So I do believe that the governments are going to have to crack down significantly. And I do believe in the future there may be what they call crypto, but if you're going to have stable coins, it'll have to be backed by the US dollar. Therefore, it will need regulated by the government. So the whole idea of crypto originally, a lot of it, was the dark web and everything, right? Yeah. Now, I believe if we do see a continuation of this, it's going to be more... You can't have a situation when you're telling people, right, we're going to be paying for everything in 5 years with Bitcoin. And in the same sentence, you're saying, right, next pump, right? How can you make plans for your family or anything to pay for things when there's a 50% move in a month on a regular basis, right? And that's the biggest one. The rest of them are moving all over the place, right? So this is not, you can't have it both ways. Is it a currency to pay for things, or is it a speculative currency? Because the people who are losing the money have got to understand one thing. Whatever people say, there is nothing behind this. When you look at your currency or your stock market, it is based on economic figures, your exports, your imports, your inflation. There is nothing behind this. Cryptocurrency is basically traded based on sentiment.
Then how do you view the businesses or probably the companies that accept payments in cryptocurrencies?
Listen, that's entirely up to them. I personally think it's a dangerous game because if you set this price in a cryptocurrency and you've got a payment in 6 months' time, and you know Indonesian payment terms are 90 days, and if I'd accepted a payment 1 month ago in crypto, I'd be getting half as much money now. So I can't see how you can pay for something which is so volatile. You wouldn't pay your mortgage in Russian rubles, right? That's the issue you've got with this. If people want to say this what it is, it's a speculative trading game. It's not a zero-sum game. Last week I saw certain people online on YouTube channels calling out Citadel and Bank of America for taking down Luna, right? And I'm like, hang on a minute, guys. People use Bank of America and Citadel and these big institutions getting involved with crypto as you see, these guys believe, right? But they don't. They just realize it's an easy way to trade. They can make money easily because they understand and they have the size. So unfortunately, they probably did take down Luna because it was easy. Because they were trading against a lot of young people who've got no real trading experience, who learned what they were doing on the internet,
yes.
on chat rooms by people who were sponsored to do this, you know. Right. So I think people are going to be very, very careful before they play games when they think, oh, there's only one winner here, can't lose. If you don't understand it, don't invest in it.
Yeah. Anything you'd like to add, Jessica? Probably, especially because Martin mentioned about the information was explained to the youth who did not have any information or any knowledge base, whatever.
Yeah, that's true. I agree with Martin because nowadays I'm really happy that Indonesian people are now educated to invest, especially during COVID. The US stocks is coming down really crazy, right? And people invest in it. But what I want to warn to all of people, just be careful. If you want to invest in something, you have to understand what instrument you got in. You cannot invest in something you don't understand. You have to know the risk. You have to know how can you get the return. You have to know, is it safe, your money with them. Recently, I think there are a lot of scams
yes.
around like robo trading forex,
yes.
And there are a lot of companies that caught by Bapepti. I think, yeah, thumbs up to Bapepti. Finally, you caught them because they're running a Ponzi scheme. Yes. And there are a lot of people who suicide and lost their money. So I think for all people out there, just be aware, be careful. If you want to invest in something, you have to understand it. Don't just go blind and want instant money, because there's nothing instant in this world, right?
Yeah. If it was too good, if it sounds too good to be true,
then
it definitely is, right?
Yeah.
And you can't use the likes of the big banks or Elon Musk as a reason, I'll do this then. They have their own agenda. And it's been proven, right?
How can we point out these hidden agendas and also the information that is probably being secluded or probably being hidden by all these media? Because mostly they also own the media and they also point out the agendas. We have to remember that probably many people do not have the networks that one may have.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest challenges here. You know, I'm not covered by the tech media because I don't money off their investors, which I probably have the biggest deep tech company in Indonesia. So again, it's, people don't know about our company because I'm not covered because I don't have their investors. So that's up to them. I don't think they cover themselves in glory, always like acting as like championing something, right? I don't think that's going to change very quickly. It's a problem a lot. We've just discussed CNN and Fox. It's bad enough in America, where political opinions, you watch two channels, it's totally different. But I think, people have got to do a lot of research. And the trouble is now, because the media also is very partisan. Certain people can say what they want in the media, and if they're wrong, nobody questions them. And that's all over the world, but I think particularly here, because here it's far more concentrated. But the problem is then people move to YouTube, right? And YouTube is even more scary because a lot of the people who are talking up the crypto, for example, and they are not qualified in any shape, way or form. They have no experience at all. They've just found a way to make easy money online by convincing people to follow. So it's a real challenge to learn it. I mean, I think people should look at enrolling on real financial courses at proper universities. I really don't think you can take much the media says. The media's never gonna, come out and say you shouldn't be involved in this. It's like that, right? The media is going to be very careful to say that. The media is never going to call certain people out.
Yes.
Certain people are never going to apologize. I think you need to do financial courses and learn how things are priced and everything. As I said, the example of Tesla, everyone says, they're making money now. Are they really? He's trading Bitcoin to make money, and he's so big he can manipulate the market. Now, again, he's got so much power. He doesn't get so much power off the media, but online his presence is so big that people follow him. And of course, he's a very successful guy, and they would. But people have got to remember he has his own agenda. And when somebody comes out and says they're going to buy a company, and then says something 3 days later and drops $7 billion off the price of the company, people should probably realize that this person is making their own decision. So I honestly don't think it's very easy. And again, what Jess did recently, and what I've talked about for the last year and a half when I've talked to VCs and stuff in Indonesia, people look at me like I don't know what I'm talking about, and it's just not the normal thought, right? And I honestly don't know where people really learn that this could carry on forever. So of course there are the people who've been scammed, but there's also people at a higher level who I honestly believe thought this could go on forever.
Right.
Maybe they'd been talking to themselves amongst their own group so much, they'd never realised that actually it can't go on forever, and maybe we're a bit too young to remember last time this went wrong. So I think proper financial education, Udemy courses, and stuff like that. But the big thing is, if somebody's telling you they've made all this money, I'd be very careful, because you cannot make money for nothing. And if somebody's making money, somebody's losing money.
Yes.
It's a zero-sum game. So when crypto people say, oh, we're all making money, or we're all experts, it's a very dangerous game.
And if something's too good to be true, it probably is. It mostly is. And Jessica, Mari mentioned that one of the key ways is, of course, to get proper financial education, but then it takes time, and some people doesn't have that time that is needed for the education. In your opinion, how can one get proper information, decent information?
I think it takes time. It really takes time. But for the retail investors, I feel sorry, because there are a lot of media that's controlled by some institutions.
Also you got the chat rooms, right? The chat rooms are full of people who also, they're trying to push stuff.
Yes.
They're not experts, right?
Yes.
So chat rooms are also a dangerous game to take your financial advice from a chat room.
Seek professional advice.
Yeah. If you want to invest in something, you have to do your own research. You cannot just believe in someone. You cannot just believe even in media. You have to do your own research. You have to educate yourself. It takes time. You cannot just invest in something like, I know from my friend today and I invest in something. It doesn't go like that. You cannot get instant money. There's no
shortcut.
Yeah, there's no shortcut in this. So you
best to keep, if you've got 10 million in the bank, rupiah, and that's a lot of money to you, you're best to keep that 10 million in the bank and educate yourself. Not listen to your friend who's just bought Lumu or one of these other cryptos because everyone says they're making money, because it can go wrong in a day. You know.
Don't
People don't sell when it gets to the top, right?
Right.
They don't, right? They watch it go up,
yes.
and it's gone by the time. They can't sell when it's going down, so it's very rare people actually make the money. You know what I mean?
Don't just invest because you're FOMO, fear of missing out. Just invest
Or
because
following, just like jumping on the bandwagon.
You cannot do that. You will lose your money. 100%.
100. There you go. 100% if you're just following a trend.
Yeah, cannot do that. You have to do your own research, especially if you invest in some public companies. You can see the financial report in public in websites, something like that. You can research and you can educate yourself. Don't just go blindfold.
Okay. And now I'd like to also ask Martin, especially on the practical implications on the BVT business itself. As you mentioned before, you're not mentioned usually on the media because for certain reasons. Then how can you run your business and also probably, gain new clients? Is it only from the networking?
I run my business bringing the media to me, I can't get on Metro TV, bring Metro TV to BVT. So my strategy is slightly different. Listen, I'm not in a situation where I'm in that world really. I have partners who are, one of the reasons we have a different approach, my partners are actually very senior capital markets people in Japan and Hong Kong, very renowned people. Two of the biggest hedge fund managers in the area are partners in my business.
But you've known these people for quite some time,
for a long time. I've known these guys 15, 20 years, yeah. So we have a trust and we kind of have a strategy. We're older. We did live through 2008. I started in 98 when they were putting websites on in the UK and selling. This was back in the UK in 1998. Websites like lastminute.com, which was just a website which was suddenly valued at hundreds of millions of dollars, and then it just went bankrupt or it went down, and it was oversubscribed when it listed. This was in the UK 20 odd years ago, right? So many things I've seen like this happening, and when it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't matter who's talking the buck up in the media, it doesn't make sense. So for me, I've used LinkedIn as a platform, probably rubbed up a lot of people the wrong way because my opinion is quite opposite to status quo. I've told a lot of people on LinkedIn that they're talking nonsense in a friendly way. But it doesn't actually affect our business because we're not highly leveraged. Well, we're not leveraged at all. So we don't have debt, which is one of the problems a lot of these companies. And I'm not relying on monthly VC investments, right? That's the problem for some of these companies now. And I fear for them because some people have been left high and dry, I'm sure. Because as she went on before about the interest rates, etc. This totally impacts how much money is going to inflow into the investment world, and it's things turn from on risk to off risk very quickly, and there's a massive turn from. It's in 2 or 3 weeks. It's an on risk to off risk, and when things go off risk, it means that people ain't going to be believing this story of right, we're going to make money in 10 years' time. The game's over. That game's over, and I'll be honest with you, I've never understood that game. So, but luckily, from our point of view, we've got a different model. Of course, it could slow us down because some of these clients might have a problem. We want to work with them, right? And I really hope not. And I hope it's still time to sort it out and make sure that everyone survives. But I think we're in a situation where things are going to be very different. And what I've been saying for a long time is this growth is nonsense. Because if it costs you $10 to make $5, it's not a business. It's not a business. You don't actually need a product. You don't need a right. So I always give this example. You don't need a product. I could close this hole down tomorrow and just and make it very clear that if you come to 1920 Forrester, I swap $500 for $1,000. I could get my revenue to $1 billion in a year with a $500 million loss. It's very easy, right? You don't need a product. I could give my software away for a very cheap price. Revenue could go through the roof, but I would be losing $20 million, $30 million a year, which I can't afford because it's my own money, right? So it's a totally different outlook, right? So yes, my growth has been slower maybe than some of the VC-backed businesses, but it's sustainable, and I'm not sat there now thinking, oh my God, sat at home every night. Well, I am stressed, but not for the same reasons, right? I'm stressed because we've got COVID, now we've got slowdown, but it's built on maybe the foundation is strong because we built up the IP. So it's hard to copy us. We have strong intellectual property. So we're hoping as well some of the bigger investors start to take seriously more the deep tech company, not just the consumer goods company. Because the trouble is in consumer goods, there's no loyalty. So it's generally hard to make money. What I mean by online shopping, it's quite hard to make money. That's my point, right? And food delivery, it's not easy to make money. Globally, very few companies make money. And again, this is what people don't understand. Very few companies doing food delivery or globally make money. Uber doesn't make money. So and they've been around for 13 years. So I think there's got to be a change in approach. I think having some IP, having some technology. You hear Larry Ellison coming out from Oracle saying that Uber doesn't own anything. He has no assets.
Yes.
And he said, when I built my business, it took me 13 years to get to a certain level.
Yeah.
And he's, of course, because nothing's instantaneous. The problem is everyone wants something yesterday. You know, for me, 3.5 years to build a business with 160 staff is not bad, with no external money. But kind of, some people have kind of scoffed at me of, oh, you're not too slow kind of thing. And I'm like, guys, you know, when the tap's turned off, how are you going to survive?
Right.
You know, so I think, BVT as a whole will be fine. But of course, I would rather the whole economy in Indonesia, especially after the COVID, improves as well. But I think what we're going to see is just a more sensible growth.
More sensible growth. And speaking of BVT, and as you mentioned before, the condition that how it has not very much impacted BVT itself, I would like to also ask Jessica, as an investor relations, especially the penetration on the deep data, the deep technology that BVT is working in right now. How is it in Indonesia itself among the investors?
Okay. So the reason why I want to join BVT in the first time is because previously I didn't believe in some startups company, because I didn't believe, I'm not sure about their business model. But when I've talked to Martin, he explains about the BVT business model, this is kind of different, right? BVT has like data, it's a deep tech technology, and the product, it's not easy to build. It took like 3 years to have this product. So the product is not easy to replicate. Not like other companies that, maybe like Martin said, food delivery, something like that. It's very easy to replicate. So there are a lot of companies that have the same product and not have any unique selling point.
Yes.
So they just throwing promotions, discounts, marketings, which is expenses, right?
And
TikTok, something like that.
TikTok.
And the competition is very tight between these companies, right? So they throw the promotions, they throw the discounts to get customers, and it works. They have a lot of customers, but the customers are not loyal.
Yes, they're only after the promotions. And
the customers only loyal to the promotions. So if this company have bigger promotion, the customers will move to this company. This company have bigger promotions, customers will move to that. And that's why they have to maintain the promotions, the discounts, the marketing, so that they won't lose the customers, right? And that's the big problem. If they still throwing money for promotions and discounts, they won't get any profit. And I see in the last 2 months, 1 month, I think all the funding companies, maybe like Thesis, are realize that this is not getting any profit, right? So they are now realize that I think this cannot continue. I think they have to think about the sustainable profit. And like what I said before, Martin has a different business model in BVT. We want to have a sustainable profit. I don't say that getting customers is a bad thing. It's a good thing, but you have to think about your profit also. You cannot just throwing money around and not getting any profit.
The trouble is you have been able to.
Yeah, you have.
Been able to, because there's been so much liquidity coming into Indonesia, which, as everyone said, Indonesia's growing like crazy, big companies growing. So there's been massive liquidity. So people have been throwing money around.
Yes.
The problem is, when the tide goes out, the emperor has no clothes.
Yes.
That's the potential issue.
You have to be prepared for
and I think the valuation of these companies is based on GMV, gross merchandise value. It's a transaction of their platforms, right? So because they don't have any profit, the valuation is based on the GMV. I don't think it's wrong, but I don't think is it right to value something from a GMV. So, and they bubble the valuation to be up, and after they go public, just down. So I'm not sure, is it work to value a company based on GMV? I think all the funding companies like Thesis are now realize that I think this business model isn't work. So for these companies, I think they will have to think about their business model. Is it work? Yes.
Massive down rounds.
Yes.
In I've up round, down rounds. I mean, in the next 3 months, these guys wanting money to survive. Their $100 million valuation 3 months ago will be a $30 million valuation now, max, because it didn't make much sense then.
Yes.
The trouble is, a lot of the VCs are actually, the way it works, they are just valuing up their own investment. So they're buying at 1 million, they're buying at 10 million, they're buying at 100 million, and they're actually only valuing up their own investment. So it's exactly what SoftBank Son did. That basically that's what he's done a lot. He's bought big into one company at $100 million valuation, then he buys in at $1 billion, and he tells his investors, you've 10 times your first investment. Well, that's just, I mean, anyone who's done any kind of capital markets and thinks that's serious, it's just not. And I mean, and Son made his money originally, well, SoftBank, but he made one of the biggest VC deals ever in Alibaba. And I think he expects everything to go like that.
Yes.
But things don't, he got lucky, right? You can't, he's got very unlucky since. I mean, I think everything he's touched since has gone wrong. And unfortunately, because he was doing it, everyone thought, oh, we can do it. But you look at the numbers now, globally, there's 100, I think, unicorns in India. And 50 odd of them are losing like the most ridiculous amount of money ever. And I mean, it's hard to turn it around, especially when interest rates are increasing. So I just think that when people are awash with money, and especially when it's being run by young people with, unfortunately in that world, no qualifications, because not saying they've all got MBAs, right? But they don't have capital markets qualifications. They haven't been analysts in investment banks, or if they have been, some of them have been, which amazes me, they forgot about it because they thought, right, we can really make money here. But surely it should be known by people who've got experience, knowledge of investments, that when interest rates go up, and we've known for over a year interest were going up. If you look at the yield curve, everyone's known, right? So this is not someone knocked on your door and says, oh, the interest rates have gone up.
It's all of a sudden.
So I'm struggling to get my head around why in December people were still funding ideas for $100 million. Ideas. But so yeah, it's the knock-on effect is significant, right? If you're valuing companies like that. So yeah, we tried to. Of course, we would like more clients and more, but first of all we also value on the product market fit. Actually, our products are used by Astra and people, so now we want to scale it up now. But we made sure we could do something no one else could before we scale it up. So also we own the company; it's not owned by investors,
All right. So there you have it. Another tip and also another strategy for you to think on. And as you think on, we'd like to also once again remind everyone who is watching to please post your questions on the YouTube comment box, and you can ask anything to Martin or Jessica, and you guys are more than happy to answer, right?
Yep.
Okay. So next, we would like to continue our discussion, probably since we have been talking about the cryptocurrency, we've been talking about the startup as an introduction, but probably would like to also know more about the Indonesian stock market. Probably, Jessica, can you please enlighten us on the condition of the Indonesian stock market right now, and what do you think of its future?
As I said before, because of the Fed just increased their interest rates, so the U.S. stocks and Indonesian stocks drop quite significant. But I think if you have a good fundamentals, and if you have a proper business, and as I can see in the first quarter 2022, the company's performance are quite good. So I think it's still under control. If you have a proper business, good fundamentals, the price will go up again.
Okay. And Martin, in your opinion, what about the regulations about Indonesian stock market? And probably can compare it to Tokyo and Hong Kong, where you have actually.
I think So the major difference and there's benefits and negatives, right? The biggest difference is in Tokyo and Hong Kong, and I've not worked in the stock market here, so I'm not aware of what the full regulation is. Certainly in Tokyo and Hong Kong, when you're going out on TV making statements, generally you've got to be very careful, right? So certain people here say lots of things when they're not actually 100% qualified to do it. So it's different in that respect. Tokyo and Hong Kong are very regulated. So in Tokyo you need GSDA. In Hong Kong you need Paper 1. All the Paper 7. You need all the Series 7 in the US. You need all the qualifications which legally tie you. If you break those, you can end up in prison. So I don't know what the regulation like here on the listed securities, but there's a lot of crossover. There's a lot of crossover here, right? As in basically the people are talking in the private markets. People are talking about the stock market when they're actually only in the private markets, right? So that wouldn't be allowed necessarily in other places. So they've got they're a VC guy or they're a startup guy, and they're making statements on capital markets, basically talking up their own book because they want to IPO the company, right? You don't see much of that in Hong Kong and Tokyo are the same. They'd be taken down. I mean, there is a lot more open. People can talk. There's we had conferences. I remember the Excelsior Hotel in Causeway Bay in Hong Kong, hedge fund conference. I remember sitting on the stage sweating while people are taking me on, asking me questions, and I didn't enjoy it at all. But that's the kind of thing people are made to feel uncomfortable.
Yes.
So
and it is necessary for them to
there's
know.
a lot necessary to know. So in Hong Kong and Tokyo, there's far more players, right? So if you have a comment on the business, something, no one people speak out a lot more because, you know, if you make a comment about Toyota as an analyst, sell Toyota, Toyota's not going to not sell you a car. You know, it's not any kind of interlinked, right? So in the banks, for example, clearly make sell recommendations. My understanding is in Indonesia, it's not so easy just to make, like, if you're an analyst for a major financial institution, how negative can you be on certain stocks and stuff, right? Which again, in my opinion, if you want to become an international stock market with more investment, I've got a lot of friends in the Japanese markets, and a lot of them love Indonesia, but they do have concerns about how that's the case. You know, how basically, you know, there is no checks and balances in that case. Whereas if you make certain comments in some of these markets, you'd be questioned, you could get hauled in front of committees, there'd be a lot more checking, and there's far more people involved. So making a comment about something, nobody cares. I mean, here probably the markets control 20, 30 people.
Right.
So it's a totally different and you get, I mean, I know most of them, and I've only been here 3 years. I know quite a lot of them personally, right? So it's a total different. I was in Hong Kong 12 years. I don't know all the top people. Sorry, I'm in Tokyo 12 years. So yeah, the market is seen as a mechanism. You can say what you want, do what you want, don't have to agree, and that's the best thing. And it creates checks and balances. So you don't have people just saying what they want and being wrong all the time. And there's checks and balances. And I think Indonesia, if they introduce checks and balances, it will help the overall fundamentals of the economy.
Okay.
The other thing is here, when they list companies, you know, family businesses, they often list like 10, 15% of the float.
Yes.
And that's not necessarily attractive to foreign investors, right? So again, is that something they need to change? Technical listings as well. Is it something that really, you know, when people look from the outside, they understand, right? Again, a lot of young people who maybe not understand this, you don't see much of that in Tokyo and Hong Kong, right? So the markets are far more, and that's why they get far more foreign investment in them still. You know, the Japanese market still gets a lot of foreign investment in it. And people feel more secure because there's a lot more regulation protecting people.
And information
Flow, because, information flow. Like Bloomberg will say what they want.
Yes.
If they don't agree, they'll call Goldman Sachs out, right? I mean, you got people in Japan like Kathy Matsui at Goldman Sachs. She gets a lot of coverage, but she's been doing it 30 odd years.
Yes.
And she's like she was the number one analyst before she started running equities. And her husband also is a big player in JP Morgan, or was. They get a lot of coverage because they're very good over a lot of years, but still they get taken on.
Yes.
And when people take them on, it's not a personal thing. You know, you might not agree with them, but next day you're friends again. You're not going to write, Goldman Sachs won't trade with you anymore because you upset somebody. That's not the way to run capital markets.
Yeah.
If you have a capital market like that, you can never have a mature capital market.
And that's why we need the truth to come out. Jessica, you'd like to add anything?
Yeah, I just want to share my experience before. So I previously worked as an investor relation in a public company, and I used to talk with securities company who makes the recommendation of buy, sell our share. And if I talk with Indonesian companies, they usually just make the recommendation buy because they just want to make people happy. I'm happy, the company happy, their company happy.
Everyone's happy.
Everyone's happy. But in terms of foreign companies, they brave to have a sell recommendation. So in Indonesia, I think people are quite afraid to make a sell recommendation. They just want to make everyone happy. But I don't think what's their is it really what they think about our company? I don't think it is.
Okay.
There should be for making a sell recommendation or having a negative opinion on something should absolutely have no impact on the person's job, and I think it would here.
Yeah.
I think it would here because the economy is certain control of certain areas is by the same people, right? And I don't think those people should bother about it. I think they should see it, they should welcome it. I don't think there's any harm. I don't think, and I think, I mean, I think some people do welcome it, you know, and I think going forward, the more and more we have of that, the more foreign investment will come into the country, and the more foreign investment comes into the country, the better the economy.
Yes.
But yeah, when the more foreign investment comes in, there's going to be more questions asked, and there's going to be things like they're going to ask about, you know, what roles people hold, and there's going to be far more difference than there is now. People don't necessarily are going to believe everything you say because your dad's famous here
Yes.
or something. It's going to change. You know?
Yes, and we have to be prepared for that change.
And you've got to be prepared for it.
And we have to give
And
that
not,
access.
And not see that as a challenge to you or your authority. See that as a positive.
Yes.
See that as like, right, this is our economy. Indonesia is going to be the fifth
Yes.
biggest economy in the world in 2050, apparently.
Yes.
Well, to be the fifth biggest stock market in the world, it needs to take on that kind of advice where,
Yes.
where they have the checks and balances and people come out and say what they want, and we have a, you know, positive, everybody, not always positive, but I think long term it creates more positivity in the market.
And of course, to give education as well to the public and also information of the market.
Because I would say most people have no idea
Yeah.
because they don't get to hear anything,
Yes.
right? You know?
Yeah, because they don't have the access to the information, also the knowledge itself. All right, Martin and Jessica, since we have already invited the viewers to ask a few questions to both you, Martin and Jessica, there are some questions that I have already received. So let's start with the question and answer session then.
Okay.
The first question is from Sandor Hagelman. Just during the last couple of days, many fresh Indonesian startups have closed funding rounds, raising $6 until $8 million with MVPs and having just a handful of users. Any opinion regarding this phenomenon and also the future of it as well? Please.
Sander?
Yes.
Hello, Sander. How are you, my friend? I know Sander, not well, but he's my LinkedIn connection, and we sometimes discuss our similar opinions on business here. And my view is, I'll be interested to see how much money's actually changed hands. Some people are trying to fight back. You've got two schools of thought right now. You've got people who are coming out saying, right, things have changed, and some of the big VCs have come out and said things have changed. Some others have come out and said nothing has changed, business as usual. I don't know how much money's changed hands. Again, where are we getting the information from? Are we getting it from the media, which is owned by the people who are claiming to have done the investment? I mean, that's a potential issue. If it's still happening, I would be very surprised. But again, remember, some of these guys have got funds already. Money has to be allocated. Some of these guys will be helping out their friends in Indonesia, as we know. A lot of the people investing in startups are connected to the VCs, and people will be helping out their friends before there's no funding left as well. So there's various ways to look upon this. Some people will be thinking, right, we've got this money to allocate now, and our friends want money now, and if we don't allocate it now, we're not going to get the chance to allocate it. So there could be a last rush to allocation. Personally, what my opinion is, I think it's pretty crazy, as you know, because my view is that, you know, it doesn't make sense, and throwing millions of dollars around. I mean, when I look at what I've built for like less than these guys are spending, that's why I struggle to believe the money's changing hands, all of it, because I mean, I've built something which is very hard to build, and well, you know, and hired some real, like, you know, real smart people to do it, and I've spent nowhere near these guys, as you said. So yeah, I personally think it could be semantics. It might not be fully 100% true, and it could be people getting money out to their network before it slows down, because I have seen some of this as well. I can't see how they can continue doing what they're doing. Unfortunately, whether people want to admit it or not, it's a failed business model. You cannot continue to pump money into businesses, not that have not made money here, that have globally have never made money. So
the future of it is
the future is bleak unless people make a massive change in their attitude. I.e., we have to look at how we're going to profit and be sustainable. Because if you think you're just going to, like the recent company in the US, like Checkout Business, which went through $120 million in 6 months, then closed. Yeah. I mean, that whole model is absolutely insane, right? So, yeah, I think it's over. It never made any sense to anyone I know. I talk to my partners, capital markets guys. They're just like, what are they doing? Mm-hmm. Nobody I know understands it. But this is nothing to do with Indonesia. Globally, give me an example of a business that growth at all costs, doing any of these like mass consumer businesses that has ever turned a profit. And if you can't find one in America as well, or in India as well, you've got a problem. Yes, there's a few globally, and good luck to those guys because they've booked the trend. But you know, you've got to be serious about business. You can't, if you need $20 million every month or every 2 months of somebody, it's not a business. It's just not a business. I mean, you know, I think it's like Kevin O'Leary says. He's the guy on the Shark Tank, Mr. Wonderful. He said, if you're not making money in 5 years, you're not a business. And I agree. You're not making money in 5 years, you're not a business. You've just been convinced you're a business by some people who've got control of other people's money. I I mean, the one reason we spend less money here because we spend our own money. You know what I mean? So it's a bit different, right?
you're running a
and it's not
business,
from our families,
yes.
so it's a bit different, yeah.
All right. Jessica?
I think business is a business, right? Business, you have to make profit. If you don't make profit, it's not a business, it's charity. So yeah, I think people are started to realize that this business doesn't work right. So I think all the funding companies like VCs now, to fund a company, they will be tighter. They will not see only growth, but sustainable profit is also very important to business, right?
Okay, sustainable profit, that's the key. And we would like to continue to this next question, the second question. And this question is from Darren. Hello, Darren. And the question is for Martin. Martin, how do you think about investing in Indonesia?
Well, I've invested all my money in Indonesia, so if this goes wrong, I'll be working in McDonald's. So I would say, I'm very positive on Indonesian market, and I've been positive since day one. People like, in my old job also in Tokyo, Hong Kong, people used to call me Dr. Doom because I was always quite negative about some things. But I was actually the whistleblower on quite a big fraud case many years ago in Hong Kong. So I kind of can see when things don't make sense. And it's like not a surprise to me when some things go wrong because, 2 and 2 should not make 5, basically. But Indonesia as a whole, I think the growth story is huge. I personally took a lot of advice from very serious people before I started this business. I didn't talk to 25-year-olds. I talked to, sorry, Jess. I talked to, to be honest, when I started this business, the first person I talked to by coincidence was the ex-science minister of Indonesia, Kusmianto Kariman, because he's a friend of a friend's.
Yes.
And I asked him, what he thought, and he said, Indonesia is logistically challenged, and he gave me some advice on this. And then I also talked to Budi Setiadama, the ex-Astra chairman, who's actually invested in BVT. He's one of our family office guys. And I talked to people who know the market Indonesia inside out. And I think there's a huge growth opportunity here. I think it needs a shake-up, and I've said that for a while. I mean, I think one of the biggest issues in the market here is you don't get startups from ITB. So how many startups do you see from UGM and ITB guys who are super smart, right? Yes. I've got an office full of them, but these guys couldn't raise money from VCs, right? So all the VCs are giving money to their friends from Jakarta International School. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but they're not going out there looking for the best technology because the best technology they'll never see because young people, so many smart kids we've got working for us from ITB and UGM and University of Indonesia and Delhi University. But these guys would never, ever, ever get the chance to raise money because they're in a different world, right? Their English may not be perfect, but there's so many people who are technologically brilliant, but they're not looking at those people, right? So I think Indonesia should look to be, like Singapore has become now, a technology hub, because and when I talk technology, I'm not talking about an app. I'm talking about technology that solves real problems that everyone needs, not just something to sell to somebody else later and then it die off, right? So I think as a whole, the market's potential is massive. It's growing, educated population. And as I've said, if you want to get to the next level and things need shaking up, there needs to be more voices out there. There needs to be people heard who maybe not because, I look at the guys here. They could never raise money for their own ideas.
Right.
Because it's just not, they just wouldn't know how. They wouldn't have the connections. They wouldn't be able to contact these people. So it's the biggest challenge in this market, it's a 2-tier economy. The people raising money from the VCs are already middle-class kids who studied overseas, right? They're not necessarily the people who've got these great tech ideas because they can't, those people wouldn't know how to raise the money.
Then what can those people do? Where can they start if they have this one brilliant idea but they don't know where to start?
I think it's a massive challenge right now. But I think Indonesia, one of the big things I think potential for Indonesia is become a real tech hub. Yes, great, keep on funding stuff that you think is going to make money, but also look at these people. Go to the universities like we do with that. Go and see these people. Don't just hang out with your friends who went to the same school as you, or went to the same university as you. There's a hell of a lot of smart people who are just not in that world. So they're getting missed out of this, right? And that's why you don't see hardly any startups in deep technology here. Hardly any. And I think in the future we need deep technology. And deep technology is something which can drive an economy. Because constant loss-making business will not drive an economy. Yes, it'll create a lot of employment, but that employment will be temporary. Mm-hmm. Netflix hired 150 last year, they're sacking 150 today.
Yes.
You need to, and that's a bad example because Netflix, I believe, long term is fine business. It grew very quickly last year. But to run a sustainable economy and to actually go to the next level, become a tech hub like even places in Europe like Estonia, things like that. I think there's such an opportunity here, but the market has to be opened up to more people. More voices need to be involved. As I said, when I was in Japan, there's thousands of people on the media all the time. I didn't know any of them. And I was there 12 years. Thousands of people making stock recommendations, making this point of view. Thousands of opportunities for people who've got ideas to go and talk to the right people, So I think that's the biggest threat. The biggest threat is not opening up. But if they open up the economy to everybody, I think the opportunity is huge here.
Giving accessibility. Yes, Lucia.
Yeah, I think the opportunity in Indonesia for deep technology like Bhumivarta is very huge because location intelligence, Bhumivarta is one of the first mover in Indonesia. While if you see in US, there are 75 companies in location intelligence. So I think for deep technology like us, we have a very huge opportunity here. So not to mention that all the funding companies like VCs are now realize that they have to see the company with a actual intellectual property IP. So we have an IP. We plan to have a sustainable profit. So I think for this company like us, we have a very huge opportunity in Indonesia.
And for the future growth as well.
Yes.
All right. Next, we have another question, and this is from Yanto. Hello, Yanto. And the question is, what do you think about valuation in some decacorn startup in Indonesia? Jessica, you may go.
As I said before, the value.
Too much.
Okay. As I said before, that the valuation is based on GMV, right? Gross merchandise value. And as I said before, I don't think it's right to value a company based on GMV if they don't have any profit. I know they don't. Business in general, they don't get any profit in the first years. But if you can see these business models, I don't think value a company based on GMV is right. I don't say it's wrong. I think you can calculate the GMV, but you have to calculate other things like they're throwing discounts and promotions, right? So they cannot get any profit. Like it's been a decade and they still cannot get any profit. So I think the valuation is bubbling, and I think now it's burst.
And as you said, when it comes to business
is a business. You have to make profit, or not as a charity.
It's not if it's not this charity, which Jessica keeps saying over and over again for another show. Yes,
I
Martin.
guess the issue is in that whole world. It has been a charity for some people. Some people have made a lot of money out of it, right? Some people have made a lot of money out of it, and I think this is the issue. Something else which needs looking at. And it's not just here. It's not just here. So this is not a criticism of Indonesia. It's happened in the US with Snap and other companies that are listing on absolutely ridiculous metrics. And I don't know anyone in capital markets who thinks the metrics are anywhere serious. But again, how many of these people in the VCs have got capital markets experience, and how many of the people who have got capital markets experience who are advising them are scared to stand up to them?
Yes.
So, just imagine telling these people your company's not worth that, mate, and you're just going to get knocked down, right? So I wouldn't say it's anyone to blame. It's been a feeding frenzy where everyone is, and this is in the US as well, and it happens every 10 years where everyone's believed, it's going, we'll make money eventually, and they kick the can down the road. Yep. We'll get a bigger potential market. We'll open up in Vietnam. We'll open up in New York. We'll open up here without any thinking. Well, can we actually ever make money in New York selling this product when there's all this competition, right?
Yeah.
And I think, spend more money on publicity stunts than they do on actually product. And I think that's a major issue when your budget is 50-60% marketing, advertising, and very few technologists in there. I think it's got if you look, it's got very, very bubbly. I mean, but this has not been, this has been for quite a while. I mean, Uber, I think again, lack of information. When you talk to people here, they say, what about, we're trying to be the next Google, the next Amazon. Come on, guys. Google and Amazon are English language for starters. They can go global. Number two, they've moved into completely different businesses now. Amazon makes their money from cloud mainly, right? Also, they're in a market which is like, they were there early, like YouTube. The first mover. Yes, blitzscaling worked at YouTube. Blitzscaling worked at LinkedIn, at Facebook. Totally worked because they're the first mover and the only mover, and no one's caught up to them. Blitzscaling will never work in an easy replicatable business. And I don't need an MBA to tell people that. Yeah. And it doesn't make sense. And it never has made sense. And I don't know if people believe it makes sense or have been convinced by themselves it makes sense, because it's just become like a wall of, oh yeah, this is going to happen. When, to be absolutely honest, I remember sitting down 2 years ago in a bar in Hong Kong, before we went to the horse racing with my best friend who's at Namur, and he's like, what the hell are these guys doing? And it doesn't make sense to people who understand that business. But I don't think you're not going to get many people telling these people it doesn't make sense.
Yes.
And therefore everyone will convince it makes sense. And if everyone has the same opinion, things tend to go right. Until somebody whips away the carpet, basically.
And telling the truth.
And then you've got to
pointing out the facts and data is needed.
And there should be nothing wrong with the facts. People should embrace the facts.
Yes.
People should use the facts to make a change. Because this ridiculous idea that you can just sit around in a restaurant with your friends, think of a way to make money by, let's raise some money and do this. Or basically, the most concept seems to be what's worked in India or what's worked in the US. But a lot of these companies are now closing in the US, right? So this copying an idea that's worked somewhere else. But when you say it's worked somewhere else, you mean it's raised money somewhere else.
Yes.
Now, I remember talking to one media outlet here that's owned by a VC, and he told me, you cannot cover me because I have not taken money off these two investors.
Yes.
And he goes, you really need their approval in Indonesia. And I was laughing at him. I need their approval. None of the businesses make money, mate, you know? But that's how it feels. People feel these people have the voice, however wrong they are, but the voice now, it should be open conversation. And then if there was more open conversation, we wouldn't have this. But when it comes to the valuations of the decacorns, etc., this happens all over the world. I mean, in America, with all the checks and balances you have in America, you've got all these people buying now on Reddit pages and all this misinformation, mem stock. So it's not just in Indonesia. That, misinformation, again, as Jessica said, don't believe chat rooms on Reddit and stuff, because it's people lost their houses buying mem stocks last year, right?
That means we have to do our research thoroughly from various outlets.
Absolutely.
All right, since we have the lack of time, Jessica and Martin, that was the last question we can propose from the viewers. But before we wrap up our talk show, probably we can have some closing statements from both you and Jessica, probably Jessica or Martin. Who would like to go first?
Okay.
Jessica. There we go.
For people out there, once again, don't invest in something you don't know. You have to do your own research. Don't just believe in people easily. Don't just invest because you're FOMO. You have to do your own research. Don't just go blindfold, it's the same just like gambling.
Oh, same as gambling. Next.
Yeah, it's a FOMO thing, I think, the real thing you got to avoid. This fear of missing out's got mad, and I've talked to some of the wealthy families here, and they've done it themselves.
Yeah.
They couldn't sit outside on the outside, and they've gone into stuff. But you've got to understand that, like companies like Regis and these, what's it called, office, what's the name? Like WeWork, etc.
Co-working space.
Working space. Yeah, sorry. So co-working space like Regis has been around for like years and years and years, right? It's a property investment. It's a property investment. They've changed it to, they put an app and they've made it look trendy, and they've tried to value it at a price that just makes no sense, right? A lot of this so-called tech is not tech investment. It's food investment. It's something else. You're trying to build in tech valuations when it's not a tech company. And we're a tech company, but we're not operating on tech valuations. We're operating on normal valuations.
Yeah.
So this crazy model where you are basically taking any kind of business and turning it into a tech company for evaluation and calling yourself a tech expert, it's a dangerous game, because I read the other day, yes, Walmart can deliver food to your house as well. Walmart makes money. It's a proper business, but just because you have an app that delivers food doesn't make you a technology company, and it doesn't give you the right to value this company up like 20, 30, 40, 50 times alleged revenue, when that revenue is costing you $10 to make $5. So, yeah, I mean, that's the only thing. I mean, last thing I'll say is I know people probably, there'll be people watching this who probably find me quite difficult, because I've spoken out about this quite a lot in the last couple of years. But, I mean, what people need to understand, from my point of view, This isn't personal, and it never has been.
Yes.
I just cannot get my head around agreeing with something which makes no sense. So I've just been the few people who will just say to you directly that. So yeah, this is not anything personal about what we think. It's just that, you know, the way the world's going now with all this, like, everyone thinks they're going to get rich quick. You know, like, oh, we'll just, either on the
That's
VC.
the dream, yeah.
And it's the dream. And the trouble is, the people who get affected, of course, a lot of the big people lost a lot of money as well, but the people who tend to get affected with the big losses, which they can't afford to lose, on crypto, on buying futures even here, which shouldn't be, in my opinion, where I work, futures is a experienced investor fund. You should not be allowed to buy futures, leveraged assets. If you are a retail investor, you wouldn't be allowed in a regulated market. You know, margin call on line one, owing more money than you invest, just wouldn't be allowed, right? So all this story of like, oh, my friend did this, my friend did that. You know, got to get back to basics. You'll make money if your business is a success and your revenue in the end leads to profitability. And if you and that is the case with all these big guys. Google, you know, these big guys have a business model, they've adapted, they've changed, they've launched new business products, but they got to a stage where they were so big in what they did and they were so good at it, they were able to do that.
Yeah.
What we're seeing here is people moving into 7, 8, 9 different businesses before the first one is even set up properly. And it's just like, again, everyone wants to do a super app.
Yes.
Again, but look globally. Why did Google and Apple not do super maps? Just ask yourself the question.
Yeah.
There's a reason they don't do super maps. You have too much competition from too many areas.
Yes.
So again, you'll get loads of users, but
No
and also
loyalty.
you got to discuss what's to stop. Everyone says we're solving real problems. We are disrupting, right?
Yeah. That's
so
the narrative.
You can disrupt, for example, the banking sector. You can disrupt the banking sector, but do you not think one of the big banks can disrupt themselves as well?
Yeah.
This is the point. So if a big bank or one of the big institutions moves into some of these areas, they can crush you very quickly because they're not reliant on constant debt. So you've got to think out the model of your business rather than just believing, like kicking the can down the road,
Yes.
we'll be okay later, you know?
Okay.
So, but I think as an economy, opportunity is massive. And I think, it's going to be a very interesting couple of months and a couple of years ahead.
Okay. As long as we think about the sustainability and put that into account, and also the
I think
profitability.
so. I think for everyone needs to think like that. But I think everyone's been kind of caught up in, you know, the
In the
big
trend.
fear of missing out. I think, and that's on the crypto. I mean, I've got friends who are. I mean, it's very sad actually. I've got friends who are financial professionals who lost a lot of money gambling on what's it called, Luna? Luna. I'd never even heard of Luna till last week because I just thought this stuff I close off to because I don't understand it. But anyway, that's me, boring. You know.
But then that was experience from your friends that you can pass on to the other viewers.
I couldn't believe he was doing it. You know, somebody
But
who's got
then
experience, right?
You can't believe it, but then it's true.
It's true.
All right, then thank you, Martin. Thank you, Jessica. And of course, thank you to all of our viewers. And that was our Real Investment Talk Show. We hope that it has enlightened you with more information. And of course, let this be the start of a chance for us to discuss ideas, information, and as Martin has said before, to educate each other for the future of the market itself in Indonesia. Thank you very much, and we'll hope to see you again next time. Bye-bye.
See you tomorrow on Salamat Pagi Indonesia.